Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and everybody in between, welcome to another episode of the Chaps Chat Cats, part of the Hoops Crew Media Network. My name's Jake, and I'm joined in the virtual studio by the one and only Mr. Johnny Larkin. How are you, Johnny?
Good. It's good to be back after a little bit of a hiatus after the AFLW season unfortunately came to an end. But
Mm.
it's off season time. It's time to reflect, dissect, and look forward to 2025. A few big signings coming up. It's going to be a good pre-season, I reckon. Good off season for us content creators, as they say.
Absolutely. And with all that off season, decided we need to get away from it all, Johnny. It's been a busy off season. It has been. And so imagine, if you will, I've found us just a little like backwater hideaway, a little, maybe even a beachfront bar on a secluded beach somewhere with a rundown sign that just says off season escape. And we walk into this little bar and it's all sort of just dimly lit, but it's got a casual vibe going, John. You can hear the lapping
Yep.
of the waves on the distant beach. There's some strange wooden ornaments decking it out. It's a quirky place. So,
It
Johnny,
is
welcome
quirky.
to the off-season escape, our little
Thank
off-season
you.
hideaway. Welcome to the listeners and the viewers to the off-season escape. We hope to spend a couple of months here as we,
Yeah.
as John said, look through the off-season, the important stuff, the unimportant stuff, where we are now well and truly out of footy season mode. We're into the off-season, so this is the off-season escape, the first of many episodes from the off-season escape. Oh, Johnny, let's. I want to get into it, but before we get into it, there's a couple other bits and pieces I want to do. First off, it's to tell our listeners and our viewers that if they want to get the extended part of this show, and in that extended part, we're going to talk about the AFLW departures that we've just learned about the last couple of days. Some significant players will not be at the Cats in 2025, so we'll talk about those. You got to go on over, sign up to the Hoops Crew Patreon to get that part of the show, which you can do right now. You can start a 7-day free trial, get access to the extended parts of this show and a bunch more stuff in season. So make sure you go on over and do that. Also, I have to say a massive Hoops Crew Media Network sponsor. Thank you, rather, to our sponsor. I think I'm relaxing a little too much here in the off-season escape. A massive
There's no
Hoops Crew
such thing.
Media Network. Thank you to our sponsor, Cyril Cook Florist. You can visit them at www.cyrilcookflorist.com.au. That is Cook with an E. You can phone them up, 035 222 2244, or if you want to make use of a 20% in-store, goodness me, discount, you can go on over and visit them at shop 1211 Leather Street in Breakwater. Tell them that the Hoops Crew sent you, and you will get 20% off your next in-store purchase. Remember, we're heading into gift giving season, work breakups and barbecues, etc. Bring a gift that will impress and leave an impression, and that's a bunch of lovely flowers, or maybe one of those box arrangements from Cyril Cook. Thank you to them for their support of the media network. So, Johnny, we arrive in the first episode of the off season, and the topic tonight, as we enter the off season escape, on the public part of the show, is off season. The departures and arrivals from Geelong's AFL men's team. And there's been a bit of action, Johnny, for a team that, made it to the prelim final stage, were,
Yep.
really close there to making the jump from that Final Four into the big dance. Didn't quite get it done. The Cats haven't rested on their laurels at all. They've been extremely active, clearing some space on the list to make room for more recruits to try and help the premiership cause. Johnny, I know that this news is probably a few weeks old for people, but we haven't really had a massive chance to hit it because we were doing a lot of AFLW coverage, and that was the focus. Once the men's campaign ended, it was, we sort of thought we'd leave this stuff to now. So, Johnny, let's start with, I'll run you through the departures and then you can,
Yep.
pick one or two to lead us off that you want to talk about. So, Brandon Parfitt and Gary Rowan, both premiership players, they pulled on the hoops for the last time. They farewelled both of them, the Cats. There were 5 others, so 7 there in total, at least from this article. I don't know if any, I think there's actually a couple more that have gone since. But Brandon Parfitt and Gary Rowan gone. Phoenix Foster, Oscar Murdoch, James Willis, Mitch Hardy, and Emerson Jecker wouldn't be offered contracts. Joe Furphy is another one who is gone. He was also, I believe, not offered a contract. It doesn't say in this article, but I'm sure I've
Mm.
seen those headlines. So, Johnny, out of those players, like, who do you want to start with? Where do you want to start?
Well, I'll start with the one that probably got me by surprise the most, and that was Gary Rowan. I was very surprised to hear that he was not being offered a contract for 2025. Um, yeah, there's just a bit of a well, that was a bit out of left field. I would say not really surprised by Brandon Parfitt. He wasn't really getting in when he got into the team. He wasn't really playing at the level that we expect as fans and the team. So that was a bit more understandable. That there's probably a few other players that will be probably considered above Brandon Parfitt at this stage. But yeah, Gary Rowan, I still thought he had plenty left to offer for the Cats going into 2025. Um, great leadership, good speed, bit of aggression in that midfield. But obviously, I think the Cats are looking to refresh and rejuvenate the that forward line. So yeah, I think it's one of those ones where obviously they will know a lot more what's going on at the club than we do. But yeah, I was just taken aback, and I know Sam was very distraught and disappointed that he wasn't being offered a contract. Um, yeah, I'm sure he would have a lot to say, but unfortunately, life has gotten in the way of him being able to make the podcast. He might make it later on, we never know. But
Mm.
yeah, Gary Rowan is the one that really got me a bit off guard. Um, yeah, I just was not expecting it, to be honest. And yeah, as I said, I still thought he had that little bit more to give, a little bit more to offer. But obviously, the Cats have a plan going forward with this forward line that's going to be pretty young next year.
Yeah, like you said, sort of surprising in some ways, sort of not in others. Like, obviously, he's had his ups and downs with injury the last couple of seasons. It's always been a case, really, of managing, him through.
Yep.
Um, he's a high impact player who tends to take a lot of impact, and the body maybe doesn't hold up as well as some other more durable players. You said you sort of feel like he's got some more to offer. Like, Gary Rowan seems to still think he has more to offer. I was
Yeah.
reading an article the other day where he was saying he's keen to play on. He's keen to help develop other players. He's willing to play VFL men's footy and just, be called upon at the AFL level when required. He's talked about his love of coaching and his desire to do that. So yeah, I think Gary Rowan agrees with you, Johnny. It's a tough one. I've loved watching Gary Rowan play. I will never, ever, ever, ever forget his performance in that qualifying final in
Hmm.
2022. Just there were so many redemption arcs, I suppose, in terms of what had happened on footy fields and what was said about Gary Rowan in terms of his inability to deliver in finals, and that he had that moment on that stage against that team, in that cauldron, and the way he responded. We talked about it a lot at the time. So that's lovely. And, you know, that in itself is something of a fairy tale, I suppose.
Mm.
that is, in a sense, his fairy tale ending. I was talking to some people on Twitter at the time when Zach Tui retired, and people saying, "Oh, he deserved a fairy tale ending." I sort of felt like Zach Tui got it. Like, how much more fairy tale do you want than being chaired off the MCG with the Irish flag around you and the Premiership Cup in your hands? Yes, he played on for
Yeah,
2 more seasons, but really, they were sort of bonus seasons in a weird way, and he earned those bonus seasons. But a lot of these players in 2022 got their fairy tale, which was that flag. So
yeah,
I'm a bit
definitely.
the same.
Like we got so close this year to having another fairy
Yeah,
tale for him. So it's not like they weren't just going chucking the towel in. They were 10 points away from another grand final, another chance. So yeah, I don't think he needs to look back and go, "Oh, I didn't get my fairy tale." As you said, he got his Premiership Cup 250th game on grand final day, won the grand final with the Cats. What is it? The second Irish player to win a grand final. So no, he's up
something like
there
that.
as
Yeah,
one of the he'll go down in history as one of the great AFL players from Ireland. Absolutely, like what he's achieved at
yeah.
2 clubs, what he's able
Games
to.
record.
Yep, yeah. So yes, I don't think we have to be disappointed that he didn't get his fairy tale. I think we can look back and go, what a
Mm,
absolute privilege it was to get him to the Cats and what he was able to do for the Cats, and bring us that grand final victory and many other
and I'll be
brilliant moments.
and I'll be really happy for Gary Rowan if he does manage to play well and if he
Yeah,
does, perform. But I have to say, Geelong very rarely get this stuff very wrong.
yeah,
There might be 1 or 2 outliers where you go, "Oh, they moved on from a player too soon." I don't think it happens that often. People can probably point out specific little examples that the exception that proves the rule, but even then, uh, there's not
it's
many that
no,
go on to have immense success elsewhere, um, you know, that wasn't matched at the
at,
Cats after they left. So, yeah.
at the end of the day, they are a business in a sense that they're there to win games, win premierships, and at a certain point, you've got to make some pretty tough, hard, and sometimes pretty harsh calls. And the Cats are definitely not afraid of making pretty harsh calls when they feel it's time. And that's what it obviously is for Gary Rowan and Parfitt and all these other players. They couldn't find a spot on the list for them. And in a way, I think you'd rather have those players being told, "We don't have a spot for you. We're not going to offer you a contract," instead of going, "I offer you a contract," and then string them along all year, going, "Yeah, we'll give you a game here and there," that just keeps stringing them along and not
Mm,
actually giving them the proper chance or a proper send off or anything like that. So yeah, it can be harsh, but at the end of the day, you've got to
mm.
make these calls. Otherwise, you're going to be stuck in the mire, not progressing and not giving young players an opportunity.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And I agree with you regarding Parfitt. Like, he was a long time podcast favorite, but I think unfortunately probably just had a really nice start to
Yeah,
2024. Like, he actually played well when given the opportunity to start with, ended up being pushed out, never really regained it. Even like I watched every VFL game last season, and look, there were times where he would rack up some numbers, but I never really saw a player that was going to work his way back to the top of that pecking order at the Cats in terms of those hardball midfielders. He had slipped really behind Atkins. I think they
yeah,
preferred even the way they started using Sean Manor around clearances and that sort of thing. And, his ability to rack up tackles and clearances. I think there's just a number of players who developed ahead of him. I think he can still find something at AFL level, but I wasn't surprised that they moved on there. Um, just to whip through a few more here, Johnny, players I watched in the VFL: Phoenix Foster, Oscar Murdoch, James Willis, Mitch Hardy, and Emerson Jecker. Probably the most surprising ones to me I mean, look, to be honest, none of them are overly surprising. All had moments at different times in 2024 where you thought, oh, maybe they're going to make that leap. But then I probably felt that none of them really ever stuck their hand up strongly enough last season. Some started slowly and maybe found something at the end of the season, but it wasn't enough. Others started hot and then faded down the stretch. James Willis, I'd put in that category. I thought you saw Mitch Hardy's limitations when it came to finals and the intensity and physicality lifted. I just think that teams at that higher level in the finals were able to pretty effectively take him out of the game. And, if that happens at VFL level, it's likely to happen at AFL level. The one I'm probably most disappointed that we moved on from in some ways is Emerson Jecker. I thought he had a great year, but I sort of understand it. Tall, intercepting, sort of counter-attacking defender. Pretty hard to push your way into that Geelong backline, particularly when you've already got Connor O'Sullivan in there developing in the VFL, who's probably going to get games ahead of you. So I kind of get it with all of those players. I know there'll be some people who are really upset about the Mitch Hardy one, but I don't know. I thought if you looked on balance at the body of work, I thought he was an exceptional VFL player, but probably never quite overcame the gap that he needed to in order to become an impact AFL player. And I said it during the season, Johnny, that if he didn't make it into an AFL Guernsey at any point, he can at least say, I gave it absolutely everything. I threw the kitchen sink at it. Who knows if he lands elsewhere? But those are the players, along with Joe Furphy, who also goes. That was a bit of an interesting one. He didn't really get a massive look in, but at the same time, probably didn't blow me away whenever he played either. And Johnny, it's just aggressive. It's an aggressive off-season approach.
It is. As I said, you got to be aggressive.
Talk about the other
sometimes.
side of it. Yeah, I think you have to. I think you got to be. I think you got to get on the front foot because all these other teams are going to get better. Let's talk arrivals for the men's team. There's three. Yep.
Good thing is we can now no longer be considered the retirement home of the AFL.
That's right.
We've passed the mantle on to Collingwood. They are now the retirement village of the AFL.
That's right.
Good luck to them.
Let's talk the arrivals. The arrivals are Jack Martin. I'll do a quick bit about Jack Martin. Then we're going to throw to you to sort of the big fish of the offseason. Jack Martin arrives, a delisted free agent, 29 years old. So I don't know how that goes for the retirement village narrative, Johnny, but 54 games and 5 seasons at Carlton. He'd played 97 games prior to joining the Blues with the Gold Coast. I think if you look back through his stats, his best year in terms of goal kicking, probably 2017. Kicked 24 goals, 11 to go with 59 tackles. I'm interested to see where they see the fit. I mean, obviously, he's that sort of, he's going to presumably have a role in the forward line. I guess it's one of those players, Johnny. It's low. It's extremely low risk. You've basically spent nothing but a list spot. And with how aggressive they've been, they need to fill those spots. You get to bring a bit of experience in, sort of get to kick the tires on a player who's, they've probably watched from afar and gone, oh, he's talented. Be interesting to get him into our system. He arrives at the Cats, 151 career games, 133 career goals, and we'll just see what the Cats can make of him. Bit of a reclamation project. But Johnny, let's talk the big fish.
Yep.
That the Cats landed. That is former Bulldog Bailey Smith officially became a Cat, the worst kept secret in the AFL pretty much for the last 2 seasons almost. It was a pick 40. they got Smith and pick 45 in exchange for Geelong's first round pick, which was pick 17. Its second round selection, pick 38. Let's focus less on the value of the trade and more. What are your thoughts on this player? Age 23, just entering those prime years. What are your feelings about Bailey Smith joining the Cats?
Yeah, pretty excited as most other Cats fans are. I've always, looked on him when he was playing at the Dogs as go, oh yeah, this guy's got some pretty good skills, pretty good goal awareness, good speed, brashful in the contest, knows how to break a tackle. So I just feel like they've identified a weakness in our game from 2024, and I just feel like he's going to fit that spot pretty well. Like I've watched a bit of his highlights, and he's got really good goal sense. Is one big thing. He knows how to get a pretty classy goal, and also bring his teammates into it. I do remember our good mate Jacko saying that his kicking wasn't as impactful as it could have been or should have been in his earlier parts of the season, but that's a pretty straightforward, easy thing that you can work on and fix. But for what the Cats were lacking this year in the midfield, which, lacking in the midfield when we still make a prelim and lose by 10 points, like it's not a massive difference. It's not a game breaking difference, really, at the end of the day. But what he can bring for the Cats on the wing, like I've been hearing he'll be on the other side of the wing opposite to Max Holmes. And I think that'll be a really good fit. Because he's got speed. As I said, he's got a long kick,
Mm.
good goal sense, and yeah, he looks like he's really good around a contest. So getting him in definitely feels like it's a good slot to fill, and someone that can just patch up that small area in the midfield to help out Max Holmes, Dangerfield. Um, oh my god, trying to think of all the players now. It's been a while.
It's been too long,
It's
Johnny.
too long. Atkins and all, the players in there.
Mm.
So yeah, the Cats know where the weaknesses are and know how to patch them. And with Bailey Smith coming in, it's definitely a good patch job. Yeah, wouldn't wouldn't be surprised if he's just has a really dominant year. He looks pretty content at the Cats already, fitting in pretty well, and yeah, I've got a sneaky good feeling that could be a good year for Smith in his first year in the hoops.
Yeah, it's interesting. You look at his games played, 103 in his 5 years at the Dogs. So, he's averaging a bit over 20 games a season. But of course, that doesn't really take into account, it's kind of a bit deceiving, where he's almost played every game in most of his seasons, but he's also had massive stretches between seasons where he's
Mm.
been injured. Obviously, didn't play any footy in 2024. So that's a big, a point of interest, I suppose. That if you want to sort of, um, I agree with you in terms of, I think there's lots of reason to be excited. I think you only have to look at his 2022 season where he averaged just a tick under 30 disposals per game, to go with nearly 4 tackles a game, nearly 4 clearances per game, across 17 matches. Like, there's so much to be excited about there. The thing, I suppose, that could temper your expectations a little bit is the fact that he is coming off this major injury and a year where he didn't play any football. So the body might be better for it, but you never know either. Sometimes, you know, I think this is one thing that is fair to say, that there have been times, um, where certain players have come into Geelong, and maybe haven't made that. They're players that have come in with an injury cloud, and they've never quite managed to. What am I trying to say is basically not all of Geelong's acquisitions and reclamation projects, and not that Bailey Smith's a reclamation project, but from the injury standpoint, it's a pretty big thing to take on. They don't always come off, and so that'll be the thing
No,
I'm interested to see is how is his body? How is he held up? How does a year off footy impact him? I'm trying to temper my expectations a bit and sort of go, if he can come in and be a nice extra addition to a midfield that maybe was already finding its feet when it was throwing Sean Manor in, when it was throwing Max Holmes in, given that we're able to free Holmes up a little bit from playing off halfback, but with our use of Lawson Humphreys. If he can just add something, a bit decent, a bit spicy to Geelong's midfield mix and not have to be like, come in and save us, I'll be really enthusiastic about it. But I'm not wanting to sort of put all my hopes for 2025 squarely on only Bailey Smith's
Yeah,
shoulders. I think that'd be a bit
that
unfair on him, but yeah.
that'd be massively unfair because yeah, he's definitely not there to save this midfield that was so struggling all 2024. He's just coming in to fill a spot and help out this pretty talented midfield and add his experience, leadership, his knowledge of the game, and all that to Sean Manor, Atkins, Holmes, all these other young midfielders and players as well. Like he's a young player, but he's just got that feeling that he also understands the game of football and knows how it's played and can impart some wisdom on the younger team players. So yeah, I think same as you, not expecting him to come in and be the savior of the football club and send us to a grand final and be the
Mm.
best player in a grand final. I just see him as coming in to play a certain role in this club and play it well. And I think if people have high expectations on him, then don't have too high expectations. Just have reasonable ones, because
Mm.
we don't. Yeah, the only last player that we had super high expectations on was Jeremy Cameron, and there's not many players that can deliver like Jeremy Cameron does.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. It was just interesting too to keep in mind. His last season that he played footy, his last 8 games of the 2023 season, he only cleared 20 touches 3 times in his last 8 games. He had a bit of a drop off at the back end of that 2023 campaign when you look at him statistically. So again, all that to say, massively high ceiling, uh, very exciting potential. Did give up a bit more to get him than say like a Jack Martin. The Cats have invested something in him, but I think ultimately there is an element of risk in the acquisition that meant it wasn't worth multiple firsts. I think in the end the trade reached was probably fair because I think that there's risk associated with it as well as potential reward. The final addition so far for the Cats, Johnny, is Killian Burke from County Kerry in Ireland. Very talented Gaelic footballer. He's only 21 years of age and highly dynamic player. He has played in a variety of positions. I was just reading an article off RTE Sports, and he has played. I was just trying to find the where it's plays anywhere from wing back to half forward. I've watched some highlights of him. He like a bit like O'Sheen Mullen in the sense that so many of these Irish players come to the sport. They're athletic, they're powerful, they're fast, they've got good handling skills. It's just a matter of how quickly they adapt to the new game. Ken Burke, obviously a few years younger, I believe, than O'Sheen Mullen. I think O'Sheen might be 26, is he?
I think so.
I'll just try and look that up while we chat. Age, 24. So he's 24. So maybe starting his journey slightly younger than O'Sheen. It'll be interesting to see. Again, I don't feel like this is a super high risk move, Johnny. You bring a talented player in, you see if they can adapt to the new sport, and you go from there. If it doesn't work out, they go back to Ireland and keep doing what they're
Yeah,
doing.
yeah. Looking forward to him. I watched his highlights. He's looks like pretty skillful. He's quick, as expected from an Irish player. He's got some good kicking
Mm.
skills. Um, dash and dodge and all that. So yeah, I think the Cats have picked out another good one, and one Irish player leaves, we bring in another one. Because I love them Irish players. They bring a bit of pop and energy and just that little bit different, a little bit of fun,
Mm.
less serious and a bit more jovial, as they say. So yeah, looking forward to seeing him hopefully pull on the hoops 2025 and show his skills.
Yeah, well, I mean, at the very least, I imagine I'm going to be watching a fair bit of him in the VFL.
Yeah,
I can imagine he's going to play footy one way or another if he's over here for the season, whether that's
yeah,
V or AFL. Um, but yeah, that really, Johnny, brings us to the end of our departures and arrivals for the AFL men's team. We're going to duck over now. We're going to go deeper into the off-season escape beachside bar, and we're going to talk just with the Patreon subscribers at we've got a little exclusive table booked back
yeah,
there. So if you want to join us for this chat, we're going to talk all about the AFLW departures. It's happened rapidly. These players who will be leaving, some were expected, others highly unexpected. Including one in particular who, is sort of left me a bit gobsmacked when I read it. So, yeah, if you want to join in that part of the show, make sure you go on over, subscribe on Patreon. We'd love to see you over there. But we'll be back next week, just once a week, unless something
yep.
absolutely monumental, drops, Joel Selwood comes out of retirement or something. But yeah, apart from that, we'll be once a week during the off season. And yeah, look forward to chatting footy for you, with you, Spotify, YouTube, Patreon, you know where to find us. Until next time, go Cats.
Go Cats.